Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
It's a glorious day because Judd's Camp Notes are back here for a 3-day run. Mandatory minicamp. Look at those things.
Can you see them glare? I got different colors.
How many pages
Red.
did we get yesterday? And is it front back?
No. It's a little bit back for defensive formations, but not too much. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages.
Wow, dude.
Green for McCarthys reps. I used red for Max Brosmer's reps.
Let's lead with Max Brosmer's reps. Can we do like 20 minutes on Max Brosmer's reps? So Judd's gonna take us through a journey of 7 pages of camp notes from day 1 mandatory minicamp, presented in part by Quick Trip. That's got to be the first thing on the camp notes. Stop at Quick Trip and then go to Twin Cities Orthopedic Performance Center.
That is exactly the right call, because guess what? It shows that you are in mid-season form as far as where you are stopping to pick up. I mean, if you're watching this right now, look at all these glorious options. We're talking snacks. You know what? If I forget lunch today, who cares? Because I can stop at Quick Trip and pick up what I want. Great options, great service. You know, we think about convenience stores, but this is really a convenience store that's a grocery store. And also, it's one where you are going to find multiple people ringing you up, helping you out. How many times have you gone and somebody's in back and you have to wait for them to come out? At Quick Trip, it's all about you. It's all about great service. Don't forget to put the app on your phone as well, so you don't even have to spend time shopping if you don't have time. Quick Trip, Judd's Camp Notes highly recommends it as a starting point.
Let's do this.
Okay,
We've been waiting for this the last couple days.
Okay. So, JJ McCarthy. He took, just to be clear here too, they do 11-on-11 full team drills, but I think they're at less than half speed, and they're very non-instructive, if that's the correct term.
Well, non-instructive for the media observers, the Judd's Camp Notes, right?
Well,
they're like install.
Right. So you're not getting. The thing is, when I watch that, you're not seeing bang bang type of plays. You're not seeing decisions having to be made quickly. JJ McCarthy can sit back there, pat the ball, and get the drill right still. Okay.
Yeah.
But 7-on-7 is where it's at. That's where all the cool kids are, because that is the full speed drills. And so I did not track the team drills because they weren't worth tracking. I did, like a hawk, track 7-on-7. JJ McCarthy involved in 4 portions. So the reps went like this. JJ got 4 of the 7-on-7 sessions. Sam Howell got 3. Brett Rippon got 2. Max Brosmer got 2. I want to talk about McCarthy in particular, though, because this hit me in seeing a few things yesterday. And this is an observation, but it's very similar to my Darnold observation early in training camp last year, okay? And it's this. We'll get to it. McCarthy threw a pick. I think it was a miscommunication, though, so it's really not that big of a deal. But let's talk about his 4th and final session of reps, because he was 3 for 3. And just to be clear, this is geared towards the quarterback being successful. So like he finished the day 12 of 15. I'd like to apologize because O'Connell tells us you don't need to track this stuff. It's it's early in the game, but it's mini camp, so I'm tracking it. He finished 12 of 15, but in that last session, and this made its rounds on the Vikings social media accounts, he threw a deep ball to Jordan Addison for what would have been a touchdown. Now, Jordan had gotten behind Harrison Smith, but I think he beat a cornerback there. I don't know exactly. But the point is, there's something that happened on that pass, though, that made me stop. And take notice. It was a well-thrown ball. It was a tad short.
That's what I thought watching the clip on social.
Addison had to stop.
Thought it was a little underthrown.
It was. It was a tad underthrown. It was a tad. And if you guys recall, in training camp last year, I came in and I pounded the table and said, Sam Darnold throws one of the nicest deep balls I've ever seen. It's right there. This pass was not. But let me tell you the good news. If you remember last year, I also said Darnold's intermediate passes are somewhat suspect. He's got the deep ball down pat. It's gorgeous. The intermediate passes are suspect. McCarthy is the opposite. The intermediate passes are great. That's where the arm strength comes in. He threw one, I think it might have been the play after the pick that Byron Murphy Jr. had. He threw an intermediate pass to Jalen Naylor over the middle that was gorgeous, like just in there. And it had plenty of sauce. That pass had plenty of juice. I think what we're looking at, gentlemen, is the polar opposite, and you can make a case that this is not a bad thing. We are looking at the polar opposite of Darnold. The deep passes need some work, but when I talk about arm strength, the arm strength is the intermediate balls over the middle. And if you guys recall, on Purple Daily, write that down, I predicted that TJ Hawkinson is going to lead NFL tight ends in 2025 in receptions. I think Hawkinson's going to be one of the main beneficiaries of that cannon for an arm on intermediate passes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Your logic makes 100% sense on the intermediate. I'm glad that the intermediate stuff is translating via the eye test in 7-on-7 drills. I mean, it's like hard to fully tell until A, 11 on 11, and then B,
right, once
you get into an actual game where you might get hit. That's the thing about these practices is you can operate as a quarterback knowing that you're not going to take a hit because they have to stop short of you.
Correct.
And some quarterbacks get a little bit sped up when they know that it's live and you might get smoked. So there's multiple steps here, but the intermediate passing game is where you feast in this offense. So I'm tracking with you there. Where I will push back on the deep stuff is it too early to say, like, it's not an arm strength down the field thing, it's more of an accuracy thing, or like how would you characterize
I need to see more.
The deep pass stuff.
I need to see more. I was just like, there is no question. If you find the clip of the deep pass to Jordan, there is no question it comes up a little bit short, and Addison adjusts the route a little bit and sort of waits for it. I don't know what to make of that fully, but I can't just dismiss it. But I found it to be really intriguing that it was the opposite of Darnold.
Give me that equation, though, 10 times out of 10 over the other way around. And I know Darnold was incredible last year, kind of being the inverse in terms of talent and skill set of what you're describing. But in the NFL, if you think about the last 25, 30 years, the passing era in the NFL, the Manning, Breeze, Tom Brady era, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Of all the top quarterbacks you can think of, and even go back to like Elway and Marino and those guys, how many quarterbacks were awesome at deep balls, but really shaky in the intermediate range? Maybe Russell Wilson. Like Russell Wilson at his peak, and if you look at his throw charts, it's kind of hilarious how often he just avoids throwing over the middle. He's a deep ball outside the hash specialist who, in his prime, when he was more athletic, would keep plays alive and improvise and find a guy down the field. But it's usually like Drew Brees had, it felt like Drew Brees had labrum problems. Like his shoulder was jacked up throughout his career. He's had the elbow shoulder problems. If you can feast between 5 yards of the line of scrimmage and 18, 20 yards and just enough hit those home run balls, it's maybe like 3 or 4 times a game maximum that you would even think about dialing up a throw like that, right? And oftentimes, quite frankly, it's not a precise throw that gets that play 40, 50 yards success. It's either a pass interference or it's a receiver jumping up and making a play on an imperfectly thrown pass. So let's say that this is who he is. Super accurate in the intermediate range and shaky down the field. I would take my chances with that and feast in the intermediate range and just kind of cross my fingers on some of the stuff that's 30, 40, 50 yards down the field.
And it's not
Peyton Manning was not a great deep ball thrower.
Oh, no. And it's not a question. So there's no doubt that McCarthy has the requisite arm strength, okay? So I think it might be a comfort thing. Like that's a hard pass. The deep ball is a hard pass to throw, and it needs work. And I think at the end of the day, it might come down to he's going to probably need to put a little more air under it, because it's not a strike pass. Like, it's a deep ball. It goes, So I think the most important thing here, though, the takeaway is this: the intermediate passes that need to be thrown at, precisely, that have to have some zip. I'm not saying that you're trying to take your receiver's hands off, but that's got to have zip. So yes, I am encouraged. I just found it to be intriguing watching it. But there's no question, just to, I guess, clarify this a little bit. When I talk about arm strength for JJ, I'm not saying, oh my God, he can Michael Vick the thing 100 yards down the field. I'm talking about the arm strength on that 15 to 20 yard pass that's going to be on a line.
That's and to echo again, like, that is more important than being able to throw that football over those mountains. Period. Like, yes. We get so enamored with, like, the videos that go viral during the college player workouts and stuff, like the pro days. Like, oh man, did you see that Tennessee quarterback? Did you see Anthony Richardson? Like, one time last year, Anthony Richardson off his back foot, or maybe it was rookie year, back foot 70 plus yards in the air to, was it Alec Pierce or whoever that receiver was? And it was like, whoa, that's incredible. But then you watch the rest of the throws in that game, and he's sailing dudes on 3rd and 7. He's missing wide. He's not picking up the read on time, taking a sack, whatever. It's like, but that one throw led to a touchdown. Awesome. Congrats. But that's not the heartbeat of the offense.
No. And I don't think the deep ball too, like, the deep ball is a different thing. So, like, when we're talking about accuracy and a guy that can't hit the broadside of a barn, we're talking about the throws that are made on a rope. Like, at times you're going to sail the deep ball. At times you're not going to get it far enough. Preferably, at the end of the day, you perfect it. But I don't think we've ever had a conversation about the accuracy of his deep ball is his problem.
Yeah.
It's the accuracy of that 15-yard pass that sails the receiver's head. That's the problem. McCarthy has that thing pretty down. And so I think this might be where the scouting reports at Michigan lied a bit. Because if you looked at the deep ball, you possibly said, oh, the arm strength. But I don't agree with that at all. I think the arm strength is, can you put that ball where you want it on a pass that's going to go on an out route, for instance, on a pass that's going to go over the middle. Not, oh my God, you missed Justin Jefferson on a 75-yard touchdown pass. I'm not saying that those aren't important, but give me the guy who is accurate on the throws I'm talking about. So I think we agree completely.
Well,
so how about that for
Judd's camp notes coming out hot? Just absolutely savaging JJ McCarthy for not having a good enough deep ball. Having a noodle arm. That's what I picked up from that discussion.
I'll continue to watch. I'll continue to be involved in the development when possible. But that was observation 1. Let's talk about the pick. So the pick was a 7-on-7 drill, pass intended for Justin Jefferson, Byron Murphy Jr., who I think now, of the 3 picks that JJ has thrown in the 3 sessions, 2 OTAs, and now a minicamp that we've watched, I think Byron Murphy Jr. has 2 of those picks, including on a tip ball. This was, I think, a miscommunication, though, and this is where it's going to just take some time, between Jefferson, who had run a deeper route than I think McCarthy expected. But this is the type of thing where, you know what? It's going to happen. Better it happen here. And this is look, if you guys recall, a couple of years ago, I think it was Kirk Cousins last year here, O'Connell talked in training camp about opportunity balls. It's like, you have an opportunity here. It might not work, but you have an opportunity. And his point at the time was Kirk didn't like those balls because there was danger.
But wasn't he saying you should test those out in practice?
That's what he was saying. Opportunity balls should be tested out. And Kirk was risk averse. So we're going to find that. We're going to find certainly not being on the same page all of the time. So, like with the picks, I don't put a lot of stock in those. But again, 12 of 15 in 7-on-7 for JJ McCarthy on his first day of minicamp.
Yeah, and he is. I mean, just to put a bow on that point too, it was always funny that the veteran quarterback didn't want to test dude, you're not fighting for a job. You make $35 million. Like, no one. I could see the younger quarterbacking. I don't want to throw a bunch of interceptions in practice. Like, they might think that I'm not good or whatever. But if the coach is giving you the freedom to test out those opportunity balls, especially when you've never played an NFL snap before, the speed is different. Even in practice, the speed is different. You're trying to figure out the routes that your receivers are running and the timing of it all. You should err on the side of what can I get away with? How aggressive can I be? Work on that in practice and then hone it back if you need to for an actual game so that you're not throwing 5 interceptions and train wrecking things.
And so the pick McCarthy threw in the first OTA that we had access to, which I think was tipped by the linebacker and picked off by Murphy, was an opportunity ball for sure. The one yesterday, I think, was just a miscommunication. The receiver ran the route too deep, and I don't know who got confused or what. But I will say this, Byron Murphy Jr. continues to be a ball hawk. Like, this is a very good thing. This is a guy who his first year here, I'm like, oh, he's sort of a jag. Like, he's fine. He's fine. He's not bad, but he's sort of a jag. Last year and what we've seen thus far, being comfortable here now, big playability.
Yeah.
So
big playability, and will not be mentioned in the all-time Vikings all-jag episode whenever we decide to drop that. Yeah.
Quickly, quarterback wrap-up here. Sam Howell, 3 series, 7-on-7, 6 of 9. Did have a Ty Felton drop. I've talked about this enough, so I will not belabor the point. There's no arm strength. There's just no arm strength. Like, I don't know.
No zip.
Zero zip. I don't. It's no fun if I continue to say this, but I don't know that this is your backup quarterback.
No, we don't need to be bullies of Sam Howell here, but yeah, it didn't feel like he was the number one choice. They were going through a lengthy process, and they kind of landed on it, and maybe they said, let's land on this for now and see what becomes available next few months or so. Well,
yep. So that closes the book on Judd's Camp Notes Part 1, Minicamp Quarterback Edition.
Did
Doesn't
you,
yep.
On the McCarthy stats, 12 of 15, did you get us like an average yards per attempt on that? Can I get an ADOT, average depth of target?
I wish. I can't.
How about a passer rating?
The touchdown pass to Addison was 50-plus yards.
Okay.
So it was
so that's at least 50.
So it was a deep pass. I would say his average depth of target, about 12 yards? 12 to 15 yards.
Well, yeah, you include the 50-yarder was pretty far down the field. Right?
Yep,
So.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what? At Michigan, he was what they call an ADOT guy, average depth of target. There wasn't no dinking and dunking with what he was being asked to do at Michigan.
Yes, this is why, because those passes, like he can rip off a 15-yard pass easily.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like all due respect to the yak offenses out there, and the Vikings want to be more of a yak offense, but KOC asks the quarterbacks in this system to do a lot of the work, where it's like you're targeting, average airtime per throw or whatever is much different than, maybe the Tua Tagovailoas of the world in some of the other systems.
Yep. And I would say right now, my sense is McCarthy is more comfortable throwing the ball over the middle than to the sidelines.
Which is great, because a lot of quarterbacks are very uncomfortable doing that.
And remember, too, what we talked about before, which is Justin Jefferson telling him, I am going to win at the top of the route, trust me. With a zip on the ball, I think they have a chance to make that work a lot.
Love this. Before you get to the non-quarterback stuff here, the rest of day one mandatory minicamp, Judd's Camp Notes, how about a note about MSP Plumbing? What do you got in that MSP Plumbing Heating and Air note pad that you're rocking?
Oh, I've got an entire page of notes here highlighted. Why? Because MSP Plumbing Heating and Air is so good. And let's talk about how they are going the extra mile for your home comfort. Book a $49 AC tune-up and get a BOGO air quality bundle. That's a pristine electronic air cleaner and a UV light for the price of one. Also ask about their Total Comfort Club. This allows you peace of mind. You know what, folks? Plumbing, heating, and air. It's never done. Something can go wrong. And if you are in the MSP Total Comfort Club, you are going to be assured that the best in town are going to take care of you. Give them a call, 615-4292. or check out their website, callmsp.com. Call MSP.com. And I mean, who doesn't love a BOGO offer?
Oh, love the BOGOs. Love the BOGOs. BOGO. Dennis Kirk is here for all your riding needs. It's motorcycle season. It's UTV, ATV season, maybe even dirt bike season. And Dennis Kirk has over 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories for riding season. They also offer lifetime returns, which is a new thing for Dennis Kirk. So if the product is still like new and they still carry the product, you can return it, even if it's like 10 years later. So check them out, DennisKirk.com. All orders placed before 6 p.m. Central are shipped the same day, and free shipping on orders over $89. Dennis Kirk is here for riding season. All right, back to Judd's camp notes.
All right, so I show up yesterday, and they're doing individual drills, and I look at the offensive linemen, the big guys, and what do I see? Christian Darrisaw on the field taking part in drills. Incredibly encouraging. So I believe it was week 8 against the Rams. Last year tore his ACL. Also tore another, I forget, was it the MCL as well? But anyway, year ending, he's done. Question becomes, when's he back? Wearing a big brace, did not take part in 7-on-7, or I'm sorry, did not take part in team drills. He would not be part of the 7-on-7 drills, did not take part in team drills. But nonetheless, very encouraging sign that Darrisaw, with a brace, is taking part in anything. Fries, who's coming off the broken leg, still out. I don't think that we're going to see him until training camp at some point. But Darrisaw clearly making progress here, and I think we can now at least have a conversation about the return, possibly, if it is going as appeared. The return possibly week 1. I mean, that's a big encouraging sign.
It's kind of crazy that he was out for like half the season or more than half the season. And they brought in Cam Robinson, and he had some flashes. But the difference between Christian Darrisaw and Cam Robinson at left tackle is an absolute Grand Canyon. And they still won 14 games. And it was kind of under talked about. You know, they're facing the Rams and the Lions and struggling in those games. It's like, well, imagine if they had Christian Darrisaw, I don't know, one of the 3 or 4 best left tackles in the NFL. Maybe they still lose those games, but it just like he got hurt and they kind of solved it with the Cam Robinson trade. But then it kind of went under talked about. I feel like even on our show, you just sort of took for granted that this incredible pillar of your offense, this like when Trent Williams is out over the years for the Niners, it's a big deal. And you see the win-loss record when he's in versus when he's out. And maybe we should go back and do that same exercise for the offense with Christian Darrisaw. So him coming back is one of the bigger stories in the NFL in terms of like how good this team can be with the impact of one player.
Absolutely huge. Yep. So he's at least on the field. Now let's talk about some contractual situations.
Okay. No.
So I believe it was shortly after we wrapped up Purple Daily on Tuesday, news came out that right before the Vikings at the practice field, Josh Oliver, their tight end, who was going into the last year of his 3-year, $21 million contract, had signed an extension that reportedly is worth $27.5 million. It's another 3-year contract and continues a trend of contracts being done. Van Ginkel got done, like the Vikings are taking care of, and it's probably cap-wise smart. The Vikings are taking care of their own. Oliver's a guy that came here known as a guy that could block from Baltimore. And he can block. He's good there. He can also catch. Like, I think he gets sold way short. How many passes in his 2 years here have you seen thrown to him and he's just flat out dropped them? I can't recall one.
Yeah,
where
no,
it's just been a bad drop.
Very good number 2 tight end. Yes.
He is now locked up, which also helps the run game because, as we've talked about a lot, the Vikings are planning to run more. So let's talk about the guy who is not signed yet. And I think Doogie hit the nail on the head on this one. Okay, so Josh Metellus, and we talked about this briefly last week on the Scoop. Josh Metellus in the OTAs that were open to us, not taking part in 7-on-7 drills, which are done at full speed, taking part in 11 on 11, which aren't done at full speed, and Metellus also not taking part in special teams drills. And of course, he is a big part of the special teams as well. I talked to him. We talked to him yesterday. And I mean, he wouldn't confirm it, but it's clear to see. And he talked about the fact that everyone is on the same page here. I asked him if there was an update. Like I said, are you close to signing then? Because this appears to be a very, if this is like a small hold-in, it's the most amicable hold-in contract dispute I've ever seen. And he said, I don't talk about that. That's my agent and the team are talking. I'm going to guess it's close. But here's where Doogie is right. I think the problem here is, how is he paid? At what position? Now, he did say, which is sort of weird, he said, I do a lot of things, but I came into the league as a safety. I am a safety. But if you look at the franchise tag numbers for 2025, guess what the lowest paid defensive position is? Safety. Yes.
Yeah. Are you sure you're not a linebacker?
Yeah. And Phil, you
sure about that?
You sent me from PFF the snap counts of where he played. So if there is a sticking point here, and I don't know that, I'm just guessing because it's not done yet. I think the sticking point is his agent is saying, hold on a second here, guys. You're playing him at multiple positions, and you want to pay him as a safety, and safeties aren't paid particularly well. Offensively, I would liken this to a tight end who catches a ton of passes and says, I'm more of a receiver than a tight end.
Yeah, here is in our little text thread yesterday. So he played about 1,000 snaps last year, Metellus. 50% of them were in the box, essentially like a linebacker or a safety walked up in the box. 33% were in the slot, either in coverage or coming off the slot in run support or as a blitzer. But then he also played 63 of the 1,000 snaps as an edge rusher, classified as like a, I guess on some of those plays where they're sending 6 guys and he's lined up in the edge rusher spot, then that would technically count as him being an edge rusher. And
Sure.
then he about 9 or 10% he played free safety. And then he played 33 snaps straight up as a cornerback. So, yeah, I think just based on some of the positional spending across the league, safeties, linebackers, he's kind of a safety linebacker hybrid.
Yes.
And $15-ish million a year. One other thing off this, the Oliver Metellus thing.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, but and we've had a few messages that have come into the Feedback Friday inbox, and we've just yet to clear space for this conversation. But the Vikings had, going into this spring, like the 5th or 6th most cap space of any team in the league for this year. And they had a bunch kind of going forward too. But when you account for the Jefferson contract kicking in and the Darrisaw contract kicking in, and then a lot of the free agents that they signed, and they backloaded some of those contracts into 2026-27. After the Oliver contract just got logged on overthecap.com yesterday. Or actually, you know what? It hasn't been logged yet. And that number is going to be even higher than the $2.8 million that he's on the books for next year. So this number will go up even more. The Vikings are $54 million over the cap for 2026 right now.
The projected cap for 2026?
Yeah, and so you have to get under it by the league year of March. And there's a million different mechanisms for how you can do that. There's a bunch of guys that don't have guaranteed salary left. There's aging play, like Harrison Phillips, for instance. This might be his last year as a Viking because you can save $7.5 million in cap by just saying goodbye to him. Brian O'Neill, I don't think they're ever going to cut him going into next year, but like he's in line for either a restructure or a new contract because his cap hit is the highest on the team, or the second highest on the team, $23 million. So, yeah, there's just they brought in a lot of free agents, and they paid some internal guys, and they're going to have to figure out how to make their way back under the cap and then maybe clear some space to sign someone else. But they're firmly back into a stuffed salary cap situation going into the next few years.
And I think part of that, too, is among the free agents that they brought in, because it's a bunch of vets. Like, I'm curious who's back there. Are Allen and Hargrave both back? Ryan Kelly back at center because he's not a kid.
Ryan Kelly. It's essentially a 1-year deal for Kelly that's disguised as a 2-year deal because there is no guaranteed money on the second year of that contract, even though his cap hit is $12 million. So you could, if it was one and done with Ryan Kelly, you would save $12 million to the cap, but you'd also be without a really good starting center. So it's easy to be like, Ryan Kelly gone, Harrison Phillips gone, this guy, that guy, the other, right? But now you're looking for a center, and you don't have a ton of money to spend. So,
but this is where your draft picks start to have to work, right? Like they've got potential defensive line depth and potential starters behind these guys. They're buying themselves a year. But I mean, this entire conversation is why it is imperative that the draft picks start to work out.
Yep.
If they don't, you're screwed. Yep. Eventually, at least.
Yep, because it's cheap football labor, and you need to lean on that to build a 53-man roster.
Amen.
Totally.
Exactly right. Exactly right. All right, let's talk about the cornerback situation because I think it's going to be, and it probably should be, much discussed. First team corners in 7-on-7 non-nickel. Isaiah Rodgers, Byron Murphy Jr. on the outside. When they're going to nickel, Jeff Okudah is going to get a long look here, folks. He comes in and plays the outside opposite Isaiah Rodgers. Murphy goes inside. Theo Jackson and Harrison Smith at safety. I will say this, in the team drills, when Metellus takes part a little bit, he was playing some traditional safety. So here's my question, because Flores loves to come up with new things, which is very, very smart. He does not sit still. Here's my question. Are we going to see, first of all, is this the year that Harrison Smith's reps get cut a little bit because he is old? I mean, and he continues to play, and he continues to play a ton of snaps. But with Theo Jackson replacing Bynum, my question is, could we see personnel groupings that occasionally have, let's just say, Harrison Smith and Matelis at the traditional safeties, and Jay Ward, who is clearly cross-training at a Matelis-like position, who, by the way, came out of college having played, if I'm not mistaken, corner and safety. So he clearly is picked up on things. Like, that's the thing. This goes back to stuff like Dallas Turner, right? Well, he's a bust. Well, hold on a second here. Just hold on. Just slow down. He's playing in a system that is as convoluted as confusing to veterans. So it takes time. So I could see, occasionally at least, Metellus and Harry playing the safeties and Jay Ward playing the Metellus role. Not because Jackson's going to struggle, but because I think Flores loves to create different looks and different options for himself.
Yeah, I think, and the Vikings have been great at building a rotation of defenders well beyond like your 11 starters or 12, depending on the formation. They used 15, 16, 17 defenders. Some of it was like someone gets injured and someone else has to step up, but they had a rotation going. It was mostly though among like the safeties. They had 3 safeties that played all the time.
Yeah.
So that's the question is, do you scale back 2 or 3 series a game with Harrison Smith and add someone else into the mix? They also have like up front, they've got like 2 different lines worth of defensive linemen, not counting the edge guys, like the down linemen that we talked about earlier this week on the show. Mm-hmm. I look at the Eagles as kind of a blueprint for this, and some of it is them just making up for injuries, but others is just like them rotating players in and out. The Eagles had 20 different defensive players last year play at least 250 snaps. So, and then they weren't afraid to throw young dudes out there. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think there's something to be said for just having fresh legs and bodies, but also you want Harrison Smith on the field as much as he's capable of because he is incredible, and it's like having a coach on the field too.
Right.
So, but I feel like Flores has done a good job with that balance of like, we're not just going to Tom Thibodeau style ride. These are the guys that we're going to ride. It's like, no, you need to have 5 or 6 dudes rotating in and ready to rock and roll either via injury or just like part of your rotation.
And this also goes back to the conversation about developing players to replace players, right? Like if Jay Ward is set to play, I don't know, take your pick. Let's say 10 to 15 snaps per game, okay? That's experience then because eventually he might start. So like this, this is the thing too, and it's the first couple of drafts did not go well, but there are some guys now who were drafted by Kwesi and his staff who I think could work, but they got to get opportunities. So like eventually the window that the Vikings are in does not mean that the same personnel and players stick around for the entirety of the window. Good football teams always are doing what you just said, which is what the Eagles do, which is they're creating options. So I'm just throwing it out there. I have no specific knowledge of this, but it does look like, and Flores always comes back with new things. He's smart enough to know this. Offensive guys have spent the offseason watching his film, like the Bears, Packers, and Lions. They watch his film to try to pick up on tendencies and weaknesses. He knows that he has to be ahead of the game, and that's what he's trying to do, I think.
Amen. Any other last morsels in there from day one of mandatory minicamp, Judd's camp notes?
No, you know what?
Because we got to send you back out there.
I know. I gotta go. But no, I think we're good here. But I will continue. The McCarthy stuff I think is going to be incredibly intriguing to watch.
Yeah, if you could get us some average depth of target, and
here's my problem. Here's my problem. I'm too low when I'm watching it. I'm too low when I'm watching it to judge the distances accurately.
Maybe a
QBR. I don't even know how QBR is
find a way
done.
to climb up to the little all-22 camera tower that they have.
Yeah.
Just disguise yourself.
Oh, bad news, boys. Those are gone.
They're gone. Okay.
Because they now have a person who sits in like a little car thing with a screen, and there's a camera tower that they raise small, right? And so that's like gone are the
guy with the camera on his shoulder up there blowing in the wind.
Like getting blown around. That's gone now. So unfortunately I cannot do that. But I would love to.
You probably can't move from like your little space, right? Like to keep the media and
we're up on a little incline, so I still don't have a good view of the average depth of target.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we can find a way to get some advanced 7-on-7 stats here. But this is great stuff.
The head coach not going to be pleased at all that I was tracking.
Kevin, come on. Kevin, can you listen? We're going to track this anyways. If you could get us some ADOT numbers, just so we can complete the picture.
Hey, Judd, you got a minute?
6 of 9 for Sam Howell. Brett Rippon 5 of 6. Max Brosmer 3 of 5.
And also, if you could translate this into an adjusted completion percentage where the drop isn't penalizing the quarterback, that would be helpful.
Well, you know what? Ty Felton dropped.
So it was really 7 of 9 for Howell.
Should have been 7
adjusted
of 9.
completion percentage.
And Ty Felton, dude, you got to catch those balls. And
especially with Jalen Naylor's in the best shape of his life.
I'll give you this,
what are you doing dropping passes?
The audition for kickoff returners goes deep. There's a lot of guys auditioning. I think if he makes the team, and this is an if, but if he makes the team, I think we're going to start the season because it's 2 guys now back instead of the old school 1 with Ty Chandler and Isaiah Rodgers, and I think they want Rodgers to return the kicks.
It's kind of a 2-man competition.
Well, it's not it's 2 guys back. So the competition is like these 2 guys against these guys, and I'm sure they can mix and match it. But they've got a lot of guys vying for it right now.
Well, would you be able to, at some point this week during Judd's Camp Notes, put together your kick return power rankings? Your pre-training camp kick returner power rankings?
Rodgers is no question 1.
I think he's spoil the whole ranking here.
I think he's the guy. But the problem is, too, if he plays on defense a ton, which I think he's going to, are they going to have him return kicks as well?
Boy, these are all the tough questions that need to be sorted out.
Oh, and we're still outside. I just got the note. We're still outside.
Still outside, all right.
Yeah, you take that, Mother Nature.
Outside.
All right.
Outside.
Judd's Camp Notes carrying us through the off season here. Mandatory mini camp. We're sending him back out. Go get out there right now, and we'll do it again tomorrow. We'll weave Thursday in with Judd's Camp Notes tomorrow here, and don't forget the Write That Down episode. 2 episodes of Purple Daily in your feeds today. Click that like button, the subscribe button on YouTube. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See you.